It was like chasing the wind and vanity. And it was like, you got to remember, by that time I had traveled Europe on a motorcycle with my friend. I had seen, the great sights of the world that a lot of people never even get to see. And it was hollow. It left me feeling hollow. If that's it, then why bother with anything?
Matthew Williams for worldoutreach.org.
Late this summer, maybe early fall, my family and I are going to be moving permanently to Brazil, to a state called Bahia, over to the west side. We have an opportunity to be a part of opening these gates, that those people can hear the gospel and be discipled and get to meet our King Jesus. The Barna Group has done studies. If you don't know who the Barna Group is, they do a lot of Christian church studies. And these are ballpark numbers, not exact. With children, if you reach the children, there's like 7% chance you'll reach the rest of the family, which, hey, a chance is a chance. We should absolutely work to reach children. Jesus himself said, let the children come. If you get the wife, you've got like a 60 or 70% chance to get the whole family, which that's great. That's a huge improvement. If you get the men, it's like 93% chance the rest of the family will repent and believe the gospel and turn to Jesus. Seeing that picture of those guys that God is already working in down there is just astounding. What we do with this, we can't do it alone. We can't do it without you. The number one thing is always prayer. We always need prayer, because at the end of the day, it's God who makes us succeed or not succeed. And so prayer is huge. And we ask all of you to be a part of praying for this. And, the idea is that we're working to tell people about Jesus. And so we rely on people like you. And so if God puts that on your heart, say, hey, I want to support what they're doing here. I want to be a part of this, beyond prayer. I want to be an answer to prayer. You can do that by going to www.worldoutreach.org/350. World Outreach, all the gifts are tax deductible and whatnot. It's possible to set up one-time gifts, but it's also possible to set up monthly recurring gifts as well. And those monthly recurring gifts, that is our biggest prayer request right now, because it's those small monthly donations that keep us there. Whatever God has given you to be gracious with, it's those small recurring gifts that keep us being able to stay there month after month, year after year, to reach these villages that don't know Jesus, that don't have anybody else sharing the gospel with them, discipling them.
You can support Matthew and his family by going to worldoutreach.org/350.
But the whole thing that what I was trying to point out is, and maybe I'm wrong, is it wasn't you, the person, Patrick. It was the world that corrupted you, and that's why.
I think I was born to embrace that corruption. There are still a lot of things inside of me that I would engage right now if I wasn't a Christian. Be honest.
Oh no, there are. I agree with you. Right, we are sinful by nature. I understand that. But you're taking someone who, third grade, who only knows mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles, knows their friends from school or what have you. What do they know? They don't watch the news. They're not corrupted by the world. So
you're right.
What she had said was, I knew from third grade. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You're saying you're born that way.
You got to remember, my kids, who are in their mid-20s and late 20s, they knew pornography from kindergarten. There were kids walking around with,
Yeah. And the books in the library and stuff nowadays.
Still are.
Right. And the books in the library completely changed for my generation. Everything completely changed for my generation. I mean, you can go down to a grammar school library, and you can get things that I wouldn't be allowed to check out in high school when I was a kid.
Rose has a comment.
Back in middle school, I was in 6th grade, and I checked out a book from the library, and that's when I read my first smut book. I was in 6th grade. I should not have been reading that type of stuff.
I agree.
You're right.
You're right.
You're right.
Hence-
That's just the poison added to poison.
What my answer to the question was, basically. I mean, God doesn't make mistakes, and I told you that already.
I agree.
In Jeremiah 1:5, he even talks about, and I know he's talking about himself, but David also says the same thing, that God knew him in the womb. God created us and knows who you are in the womb. Okay, so why would God create you and then, make you gay or whatever? So that being said, God doesn't make mistakes. You're not born gay. You're claiming that you are gay, and that's due to things in your life, things that have happened to you, child abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, rape. In this day and age, what you just said, books that they're putting in the school for kids to read, have no business reading stuff like that. It's in our music. It's in every TV show that you watch. It is.
It's in commercials. We are a sexually saturated society.
So that's why I say no. You're not born. It is the world, just like he was saying.
But yeah, it's just like certain people. Certain people are born basically to be alcoholics if they let themselves.
Yeah, I was going to give some pushback here, because Jamie's statement, God does not make mistakes. That is, one, correct. Number two, does not apply to people born in this fallen world.
Right. God may know you in the womb.
If you're going to...
knowing you is not the same as completely designing you.
But my point is, if we're sticking with the argument of God does not make mistakes as being the reason that somebody cannot be born gay...
No, that was just a statement.
Then why do we have birth defects? Why do we have people that are born with Down syndrome? Why are people born missing limbs?
You want my honest answer to that?
Yes.
My honest answer is God does things for a reason, but not make you gay.
Why couldn't he make someone gay?
Because it's an abomination, number one.
Yeah. It's against his righteousness.
But
he looks upon it as an abomination.
To make a child sick,
God will not make
sin. To make a child sick with cystic fibrosis or mental retardation, or like my child who has autism, is sometimes to work the parent to a certain understanding to do something that he has planned in the life. It doesn't mean that the child's going to go to hell, because the child's not breaking any laws. The child is not an abomination.
Right. But whenever we refer to the world, we have two different types of evil that we know of that's descriptive, even from the Bible. We got the one that is done due to sin of behavior, the intentional stuff, and we got what's referred to as natural evil, which is all of the stuff that is groaning from creation is considered to be bad. Storms, tornadoes, earthquakes.
Earthquakes, right.
And why would diseases and disabilities not fall in that category?
In the category of natural...
In the category
sin?
Of natural evil.
See, you're calling it evil. I mean, I don't forget, God allows these things to happen.
Yes, there's a difference. There's a difference between allowing something to happen and ordaining it.
Yeah, big time.
What is it? No.
Look,
Tom, wait. Explain that one to me. What you're telling me that God can either allow it or ordain it?
What I'm saying is God will allow me to sin. That don't make God responsible for that sin.
No.
That's
God doesn't allow
you have free will.
Correct.
You have free will to choose.
Exactly. That's your call. You make the sin, not God.
But I cannot sin if God does not allow it. That's the point.
If God does not allow free will,
if he does not allow me to do what I want and what I will, it's not free will.
You know what? Then that's where I'm not a Calvinist. You have free will. From the time you're born to the time you close your eyes for the last time, you have free will to choose God or not choose God.
Right, but there's a difference.
So if you're saying you have free will, okay, then you can't come back and say, well, God caused me to sin. That's a bunch to me. That don't work.
No, I don't think that's your sinful saying nature. God caused you to sin. There's a difference between causing and allowing.
Yes.
God's permissive will can allow us to do all sorts of manner of evil and everything, but he does not directly.
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
If you want to add the word cause in there and say that somebody caused you to sin, you could point that finger at Satan. He's the one that puts the traps out there. He's the one that dangles things in front of you and says, "Hey, do this." He's the one in the garden that said, God doesn't want you to know everything.
But I will still push back and say that he does not cause us to. He tempts us to.
Said.
We agree with you. You cause yourself to sin.
Correct.
You're the one who makes that choice to say, I'm going to be sinful or whatever that sin is, stealing, lying to mom and dad, whatever that sin is. That's something that you choose to do.
Right.
Now, whether God allows it or punishes you for it, that's his plan. Whatever his plan for you.
You're basically born with free will. Choose God or choose the world. It says it in the Bible. I don't know how many times. You can only be on one side or the other. You can't be on both.
Correct. That I agree. It's absolutely right. You have a choice. Now, granted, as an infant or as a toddler, God has given you parents who are supposed to be there to guide you in the direction of the Lord, to follow Christ. Correct. That's why God gave you parents. Okay.
Trust me, I failed at that.
What's that?
I said, trust me, I failed at that. So I wasn't a very good parent when my kids were younger.
Look, I'm a late comer to Christ. I didn't come till I was in my late 30s.
I wouldn't say I'm a late comer to Christ. I'd say I'm a late participant.
Participant. There you go. So, I mean, I was searching, and it just took me a while for God to try and kind of knock me on my head and said, hey, I'm here. I have an answer for you. And I was at that time willing to hear it and accept it. Right. But God puts parents in your life. That's why you're supposed to honor your mom and dad. You go back to Deuteronomy. You're supposed to talk about the Lord from the time you get up to the time they go to bed. You drill it into them.
Right. And yet, if your parents are not there, then you do become part of the world.
What do you mean your parents aren't there? Are they orphans?
Either they're emotionally not available or they're physically not available.
Well, that was where I was. I was in and out of a lot of abusive relationships, and I was doing drugs at various different parts of my life. I was not a good representative to my kids of anything. So none of my kids basically are in this walk. I have two sons actually that are agnostic. I mean, it's like, I can't blame myself. I've already repented for it. I've asked God forgiveness for being the crappiest parent that I could be. And I've learned that I have to let that go. But all I can do at this point is pray for my kids that they wake up and find what they're supposed to find.
I 100% agree with you there.
One of the podcasts I listened to, there was a Anglican theologian in there, and I can't remember her name, identifies as a lesbian, does not practice. All right.
So
she grew up in a Christian home. Huh?
So she does like Cook. Is it Cook Beckett? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Beckett Cook.
Yep,
okay.
Beckett Cook,
so she does like him. He's gay and he admits he's gay, but he's not living it.
Right. And she said, from the earliest memories that she had, she was attracted to girls. And she said, I never acted on it. And she said, I never, now at her age, she's like, I never will act on it. And she said, but it's still a daily struggle and a daily, trying to turn her mind aside from those thoughts and everything. And she's very much, we'll call it on the conservative side of theology. She by